Thank you for coming this evening. Our speaker this evening is James Raney. He is a former mechanical designer at JPL, and he now has his own landscaping business. He recently retrained to do landscaping, and he's particularly knowledgeable about the new drier kind of landscaping where you can use a lot less water. So he's going to talk a little bit about micro drip irrigation, which he has experience installing. And he's also going to talk about a little bit the kinds of plants that might be good to work with that kind of irrigation. And then he's going to also mention about the kinds of techniques you can use so that you can do this using materials from your local home improvement store if you want to do it yourself. So, James?
Okay. Thank you. I also have some sweet pea seeds at the end. I have a couple of different varieties that people can have.
All right, very good.
If they're interested.
I like the flowers.
Yeah, you want to
The flowers,
yeah.
so good, so pretty.
All right, well, good evening, everybody. I'm delighted to be here this evening to share with you some ideas on how to save money. And I think all of us like that idea. And particularly where it comes in saving money with cutting back on our water usage, which we all know that we have to do that. Just before I get started, a little bit about myself. A few years ago, when I first bought my house in Altadena, I knew nothing about drip irrigation or installing sprinkler systems or how to save water, although I knew I wanted to save water. I had a gardener, but I got tired of paying the gardener $25 here and $50 there to fix my sprinklers. And I thought, gosh, you know, I've got some mechanical background. I should be able to figure this out. So I started doing it. I went to Home Depot, read the literature, looked at the parts, talked to the salesman, and after a short time, I started figuring it out and started doing my own drip irrigation, and I fired my gardener. Well, I said, I think I could do more of it on my own. Try to be polite about it. So, and just over the short years, and particularly before starting my business, I felt that I gleaned a lot of information, knowledge, which then became useful in my business. I do have a horticulture certificate from UCLA Extension, so I know a little bit about plants, but I love the mechanical part about installing drip irrigation, and I've done quite a bit of it now in the past year and a half. I've helped a number of clients throughout Southern California installing their drip irrigation. So we're going to be looking at that this evening. There are different types of irrigation systems. When I showed this to my wife, she looked at it and she goes, Jim, are you really going to show this? But I thought it was kind of funny. I mean, it is an irrigation system, not what we're going to talk about tonight, but poor guy, he looks like he does need some help. We've all seen this, street irrigation, not something we want. We've seen this too, lawn irrigation. Lawn irrigation, watering the street. Again, something we don't want. This is what we want, where the drip irrigation goes right to the heart of the root zone. And I'm going to be showing you some techniques and just how to accomplish that. So here's a simple drip line hookup. And for illustration purposes, and you do have a handout. I'm going to put this right here. Turn this around. So, as you can see, and I don't have you got your hose bib right here, and then you have, which you always need, a backflow prevention device. And it's this item here. And the reason why you have a backflow prevention device is so that the water doesn't go back into your clean water system in your house, because that would contaminate it. So you definitely have to have this. And that just simply attaches right there on the hose bib. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm. So you don't need to put washer or any tape?
The washer's right inside. And you don't need to put Teflon tape on this particular fitting here.
These are all from like Home Depot?
What
Exactly.
do you call this?
This is a backflow prevention device, and you'll have this right here on your handout too.
The second one.
Yes, so small. It's very hard to see.
Okay. The next item that you want is a pressure regulator because you don't want over 30 pounds per square inch on your drip line. So this limits that pressure because typically your residential water system has anywhere of up to 70, 80 psi, and that would just be too much. So we put that on there. I decided not to go with a pressure regulator, excuse me, a filter. It was just too cumbersome, and it's not really necessary, and I'll explain why in just a moment. Then we need an adapter. Which is this little device. So what that does, it converts this male pipe thread, and it gives you this to accept your drip line. And that just goes right on there. Okay? Very simple. Very simple. And then we have our drip line here. And I prefer to use a company called Netafim. And the information is on there. And that just inserts right in here. It just slides in there. Sometimes it's a little hard to push in there, but you'll get it in, and then it won't come out. So that is a drip line hookup. Very simple.
How many plants can you support with one drip?
You can typically run this up to 250 feet. So, and the little emitters run every 18 inches. So there is a simple formula to figure that out, but you can get quite a few plants with that amount of distance. And here are some of the fittings, one of which I sort of shared, this compression type, and then there are these barb type fittings too. You can't get those at Home Depot, unfortunately. At least I have not seen them. But there is a distributor in Pasadena. They're a wholesale and retail landscape warehouse in Pasadena. Actually, there's several locations. They're customer friendly. If they're not real busy, they'll take the time to answer your questions about drip irrigation, and they have a lot of these parts. This is where I buy all my parts. I don't shop at Home Depot much anymore.
Is it just the landscape warehouse that you have?
Yes, it is. And then you see there on your right the tie wrap closure. Some way you got to seal the end off. So you can either put a tie wrap around there, or I brought something else that is a lot easier. Whoops, I'm pressing my thing here. I'm trying to do too many things. Here, if you want to just pass those around. So what these do here, you just put that on there like, well, let's see, that's like that. You just bend it over. The problem is it's getting it around there's a little emitter there. You should have measured that. And then you just slide it back there. These here are pretty tight. There's some that are a little bit looser. You can take one. Oh, that's a freebie.
Oh.
They're 25 cents each, but I brought some for you free tonight.
What do you call this?
That's just, it's an end cap. It's a figure 8 end cap. And these work pretty nice. And the other advantage with this, you can pull this off, and every so often, you can clean out your system. Run the water through, clean it out, and then put that back. So in a way, that serves as your filter. So you can save yourself $20 compared to 25 cents in cleaning the line out once a month. Thank you, Melissa.
Welcome.
And what is in the line? Just the contents of the water itself? The alkali and stuff like that?
Yeah, and also maybe some sediment that might get into the line and into your drip line. Okay. Any questions?
So this process are used to make the network, right? The
Well, no.
irrigation network?
At the very end of your run, it just
okay.
closes it
Also
off.
for this
Yeah.
one, yes.
Right. Exactly. So, good question. Thank you. Also, to hold down, you can just run this right on the surface. You don't have to bury it. You can a little bit, but it's recommended just run it right on the surface. Use these staples. These are like 12 cents each. And depending on the type of soil, for example, if you have sandy soil, you might space them 4 feet apart. Clay soil is 5 feet apart, every 5 feet. I'd say these are not very expensive. These are a great way of holding down your line. And then just put mulch over them. Simple. Yeah, very simple.
Do you pound them?
Sometimes in clay, you have to maybe use a rubber mallet to get them down. Sometimes you'll hit a rock, you got to pull it out, move it over a little bit, pound it down.
But you don't have to press it very hard, right?
Not typically, especially if you have coarse or sandy soil or loomy soil. Okay. At Home Depot, you can get coils of the Stripline for it's $21. Now, the Landscape Warehouse, because they do have a commercial product, it's a little more expensive. It's $55. So, take your pick. It's still okay. Still a fairly good product.
Okay, that hose has little emitters in it?
It does.
Or do you put the emitters in there?
No, they're already in there.
They're already in there. Okay.
And they also are designed to not allow roots to grow in there as well. So,
What's the life of one of those?
that there is 500 feet.
No,
Yeah,
no,
but
the
the
life.
life.
How long will it
Oh.
last?
How long will it last before?
Gosh, that's a good question. I don't have an answer for that, but I'll say this: these are UV resistant, so you're going to get some longevity out of that. I'm just going to say 20 years, maybe longer. Another question, I'll call the company and ask them. A good question.
Oh, so excuse me, if I want to buy the tubing, so I just call it, it's just called like a dripping line tubing, right? So it's like-
Brown drip line tubing, yes. So, we're going to talk about, well, we talked about the hose bib here. There may be another way of doing this as well. Maybe your hose bib is 75 feet away from where you want it. Maybe you want to do a small section in your yard, installing the drip line. Maybe you don't want to do the whole yard right away. So, another option to hook up your drip line would be at a sprinkler. So let's just say that we're going to remove this sprinkler, this 4-inch pop-up sprinkler, which is typical in most residences. And we're going to start off, we're going to, remember our pressure regulator? Got to have that. This limits the pressure to 30 psi. We're going to screw that on the existing nipple in your line. And then what I like to do is use this UVR, this is UV resistant to T, and screw that on top of the pressure regulator. And again, make sure that it goes like this. There's a small arrow on there showing which way the water is supposed to flow. So keep that in mind. So that screws on there like that. And we have that. And I put a riser here because I wanted to add a little spray nozzle maybe to a plant right there. And you can adjust that. You can adjust the flow. So, and these are like $2. Again, you got to pressure regulate it. Now we've got a T here. And now we can hook up our, oops. We can hook our drip line. Like such. Sometimes they're a little persnickety putting it on there. But let's just say, and then just run it around your plants. Run it close to the root. Again, you want to get at the heart of the root zone. And that's the nice thing about these. So that's another option, another way of getting water for your drip line. Hose bib or at an existing spray head. Yes.
Is that kind of hose or line different from those soaker hoses or whatever
Yeah,
you
they are
see?
flat. You know,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
How is it different?
Well, these here, they have emitters spaced either 12 inches apart or 18 inches apart or 24 inches apart.
Okay.
The soaker manure, I have to admit, I don't know how they, how far apart those little things, but I think they bleed pretty close to one another throughout the whole length of the hose, and you may not want that. That's more for maybe a tree situation, perhaps. So,
But each one of the emitters or whatever it is, the water comes out of it automatically, or you don't have to put anything on it?
no, you don't have to put anything on it. Once you turn on the water, it starts to bleed
Is
out.
this something you leave on all the time?
Well, you wouldn't leave it on all the time. Depending on your soil, they do have a chart, and I have some information there in your handout. But for example, if you want to get a 1/4 inch soaking around a particular plant, and depending on the type of soil, you might want to run it for 90 minutes. Remember these here, these are rated at 0.6 gallons per hour, not per minute. 0.6 gallons per hour. So if you want to get 0.6 gallons per hour, you're going to have to leave it on for an hour. But what they do is they gauge it by how much water you get down into the soil. And in this, the basic one would be 1/4 inch. So I do have some other handout here. And there's some good information on the back of that. This didn't come out very clear, but
I think Jimmy just mentioned so for the regular vegetables and the vegetables, what's the depths in the watershed penetrate?
well, you might want to go more than 1/4 inch for sure. Maybe 2 inches, 2.5 inches. Yeah, so you might have to let it run for a little while. But again, remember, watering, it's not necessarily a science as opposed to being an art. It's an art form, really. And that's why you've got to study your plants. You've got to watch them, tend to them, and to see how they respond to the watering. Does that make sense? Does that? My daughter will say to me, I'll explain something to her, and I say, okay, honey, is that clear, or am I speaking Swahili? She likes to say I'm speaking Swahili. Yeah. She likes to always give me the benefit of the doubt. Here, let me give you a little bit of my... I ordered some, I have to admit, I ordered some, and the information should be on the back too. Some more of these from the company. I have to say yesterday, they should be arriving in the mail. I'll leave some with manure if you need a few more. Oh, here. Okay. There you go. And here's the chart. Okay.
I got this for you. No, I got those.
You got okay. Yes.
So if the tube coming out here, so what's the function of this one?
Oh, I just say if you have a plant close by. I mean, that's essentially what I did for a homeowner. But
Right.
I didn't move my camera high enough to show you, but there was a lavender bush, right? You can see the leaves coming off.
So you mean the water, we can do it dripping and also the same
Yes.
at the same time? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you use this for just plants or do it also for grass?
You can use for grass. That's another topic, but yeah, you can use for grass. That's a whole different method of how to install the drip line, because you got to run. How do I say? Not tunnels, but you got to dig grooves in your dirt. Run the line. Usually it's about 6 inches below the grade surface, and then you space them maybe every 18 inches apart. Run the whole length of the turf. So yeah, it can be used both for turf or for shrubbery.
So what's the inside diameter of this hose?
Well, the outside is a 1/2 inch. So maybe the wall thickness is a little more than a 32nd of an inch. So, I don't know.
Maybe a quarter.
Do you have a micron we can measure that? I would say maybe 0.450 inches in diameter. So, as I was saying, here, this is a little system I hooked up for a client, and then I ran my poly tube up to the wall, and then I connected the brown line and continued on for her herb garden. And just ran it across. It was like about 50 feet. And then I terminated right there using one of those little figure-8 clamps. So the customer asked me, Jim, what is the material made out of? Could it harm my plants? And so I called the company, and it's made out of a polyethylene. It's a low linear grade type of material, and it's non-toxic. They've been using it since the early 1980s. So by this time, they should have figured out if it was toxic or not, and it's not. So it's an ideal item to use if you're growing vegetables or herbs like this person is. So, but good question. I'm glad that she asked me that.
If you have a 50-foot run, is the point at 45 feet, is it diminished at that point?
No.
It isn't?
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
Is there enough pressure that this creates a spray, or just
No,
water just flows out?
It drips out.
Okay.
Yeah. So I thought I'd put together just a little comparison about price. I mean, we all like to know what we're going to pay and how much. So when I first talked about, the sprinkler hookup, the pressure regulator. Let me take this off so we can. Pressure regulator is $6.50. That's not a Home Depot item, unfortunately, but you can get it at Landscape Warehouse. And then the backflow prevention device. That's not required in this setup because the backflow goes back to your anti-siphon valve on your lawn sprinkler system. Are you all familiar with the anti-siphon valve? Yes? Okay. where the water comes from the house to your sprinkler system.
Oh.
Yeah. It's those funny looking kind of youth things. So, but in this hookup, you won't need that. This T here connection with these bushings, $4.75. This little item, that's 60 cents. Your staples, and again, that's you may need 10, 15, 20, however long you're going to run your line. And the in plug, which you got free, save yourself 25 cents. So I didn't add all that up, but you can see.
How indestructible are your tubes? Say you're mowing and blow garden.
Oh yeah, you'd probably cut it with the lawnmower for sure. So
Yeah.
you got to tell the gardeners to keep out of there.
Keep out of there.
Yeah.
Put in a yellow tape.
Yeah.
Right?
So no, that's a good question. You know, I'm not sure if a weed whacker would cut it. I don't know,
It might.
but it might.
Or maybe if you had a dog that likes to chew and dig.
Yeah. So maybe that all the more reason to staple it down and then put mulch
Over it.
You know, maybe 1.5 inches of mulch over it. Okay. And for the hose bib, we have the backflow prevention device right there. That's $4.30. Our pressure regulator, $5.30. That's a female pipe thread to drip line adapter. This item is $2, the staple 15 cents, and again your free figure 8 cap. Okay. So actually, there I did do the final analysis. And like I say, the drip line 100 feet is $52. That's not with tax, but it's an excellent item. Any questions?
What is the quality? Is it the landscape warehouse is the much better quality than you would get at Home
Yes,
Depot?
these are for commercial use. Yeah.
Okay.
And again, so I'm sorry, I don't know the quality of the product that Home Depot sells.
Can I just make a comment?
Yes.
Because I've had this installed in my house. My water bill has really gone down.
Okay.
So that's something you have to think of as a plus. Because Jim put drip systems to my essential places, like I have grapevines, he put them there. I have fruit trees in the front yard, did all that, and fixed up a
Well, did fix a couple leaky sprinklers.
leaky, yes. And since I've been irrigating, using his irrigation systems, my water bill is probably cut in half.
Well, thank
Which
you.
is significant.
And the plants are still growing okay.
Oh, my plants are lovely. And I'm not out there all the time. Oh, I gotta move the hose. Oh, I gotta move the
That's
hose.
the thing.
That was the main thing. Yeah.
I brought my water bill.
Oh, okay.
Believe it or not, I used less water in August than I did in July. I used, in August, I used 760 gallons, which accounted to about $21 for the month.
For the month?
For the month, yeah.
Oh, my
$21, yeah. So now they tack on a $25 service fee. I mean, that's a given. But the fact remains that I'm saving some water. So I'm glad I've learned how to do this, and I want to help you folks do the same. And you can do it yourselves. That's the great thing. Yes.
Yeah, definitely I'm going to take some actions, no doubt about that. Oh, the one question I have right now is my impression about this, the layout is just a single hose. So can I use the T connector to add another branch to go different?
Yes, absolutely. And what I forgot to mention, you want to make this a continuous loop. So bring it back to itself, and then take a T and run off just for your cleanup, but make it just continuous. Does that make sense? In other words, you want a complete,
Is it like your picture?
just like the picture there on the handout. And I didn't.
Oh, I see.
So, okay, you start here, or what is this thing? Or which one?
Well, this is the clean out. This is where they did the initial hookup.
Oh.
And I can keep okay.
How can you make a loop?
Well, use it. You're going to come off from here.
Okay.
And you're going to go around, and you're going to hook it back up, made with a T.
Oh, okay, okay, I understand. Okay, understand.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So.
And that's for what? I thought you said you closed it off at the end.
Well, you do.
But,
See how they did it? It's continuous, but they put a little T in there,
oh, okay.
and then they just come off with a small little piece, and that they use that for just cleaning it out, flushing it every so often. Yeah. Okay.
How long should it take to install this?
Pardon me?
How many hours to install one of these?
Well, depending how many feet you've got, I'd say maybe, let's say 3 hours for just a small area, maybe 200 square feet, maybe. You don't have to bury it. Just lay it on top, staple it down, hook it up, and you're good to go. Let's say 3 hours. So, it's not difficult to do.
And also I can move the hose around, right? Any location I want to put them.
Well, this you leave stationary. I mean, you leave, I should say, permanently.
Permanent.
Yes, around your shrubbery. You don't want to be moving it around. Yeah. So, I mean, you can do one area, then do another area later on.
So the reason I'm asking the question is, so when I planted the vegetables, each year I move around. So
Oh, I see.
So
Okay, well,
not exactly the same location.
yeah, I see. Yeah, you could do that. But I mean, if you have your ornamental plants, you will just would want to leave it in place. Now, Helen, what we did for Helen, we had a device where, you know, we could pick it up, move it so the gardener could mow the grass, and then put it back down, and then she can water her fruit trees. So,
All
yeah,
at once.
at once, yeah.
And I have,
You have a good garden.
Yeah, she's a master gardener. Did you have a question?
Yes, how do you know the emitters, how do you know whether they're ordered the 12 inch, 18 inch, 24 inch?
And that's on the handout, but it's based on the soil type.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on the soil type.
I have a question about the soil type. I know the like 3 different kinds. The clay and the sandy. What's the loam soil? Loam.
Loam?
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's kind of a combination of clay and sand, but it's got a lot of organic material in there. So it's just really nice and soft. And, yeah, there. Helen's giving the dance there. Yeah.
The actually is very, very hot.
Yeah, so it's like you got a lot of clay. Yeah, a lot of clay. I hate clay. It's hard to work in.
Yeah, I tried to
Just add, keep adding mulch to it. Help it break it up. You can also add gypsum. Gypsum to it too, that help break up the soil.
Every year I always bought the manure from Home Depot.
it's still manure.
Oh, you like that?
I just smelled it.
You like that?
For maybe 15 minutes and then it's gone.
Yeah.
It's gone.
It's better if it's mixed with
Yeah.
straw and stuff,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Once you put the system in at your house, man, cut the water bill, how often do you use it? You turn on once every 3 days, once
Yeah,
every week?
I do it because now I have also drought-tolerant plants. It can handle less water. So that's the other part of the equation here. I mean, you wouldn't want thirsty plants just wanting water, water, water. You'd be running this thing all the time. So that's the other part. You've got to start adding your drought-tolerant plants.
Did you saturate the ground before once you put this in, so that it minimizes the amount of...
Well, that's a good question. You mean when you install the plant first?
Yeah, when you first install this, you saturate everything.
No, not
So
necessarily.
that you got a saturated base.
No, when I put a plant in, I'll saturate the area. That's the number one thing to remember. When you put in a new plant, get it wet. Because you want all those small little capillaries, those little roots to start to take root, if you will, into the soil. And one way to help that is by adding water. So that's the first thing you do. Okay. But no, you don't have to, when you put that in, you have to saturate everything. Okay. So again, our drip line hookup. It's a little chart, but you'll see that information on these handouts here. It gets a little complicated, but look at, for example, clay soil, spacing 18 inches apart. And what this is here, this is a time, 80 minutes, 93 minutes, almost 6 minutes, to get 1/4 of an inch of water into the soil for that type of soil. It gets pretty technical.
What's the typical kind of soil in Temple City?
Well, it's not so much clay.
No, I think it's like sandy loam.
Yeah, I would agree. That's what I found at Loveland's at your house, Helen. Yeah. So you're fortunate that you've got. Whereas I did a job in Highland Park, horribly clay soil. Oh.
You can tell if it has a lot of clay when it gets dry, if there's cracks
Yeah.
in the soil. That's usually what you know.
Well, a lot of the soil here probably is filled.
Is what?
It's filled.
Oh.
They come in and they fill. Because I notice it's very different on the property where I
Sure. Well, and wasn't there a river maybe that ran through here eons ago?
live. This was all
You know?
desert.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I found it to be more loam than clay, that's for sure. So.
Oh, mine's clay.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Well, there's some references, and I have a business card there. If you have any questions, if you ever have a question, feel free to call me. I'm also available to help you if need be. Install your new drip line and save some money.
On behalf of the Friends, I wanted to thank James for his presentation tonight. And
Thank you.
Thank you for doing that.
Well, my pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.